Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona El-Idrisi, author of The Muslim Narcissist. In today's podcast, I will be addressing the nafs, which is also known as the ego in Islamic teachings. And I will also explain how the human being can be controlled by the nafs in the sense that you do not have any discipline when it comes to chasing your desires. So let's begin from how the human being was created. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, and we also know from various hadiths, that the human being is made up of 4 parts. So you have the soul, you have the nafs, you have the intellect, and you have the physical body. Now all of them have been created to work together. So they are all 4 separate entities, and they all work together so that we can be moral and decent human beings living in this planet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in the story of Adam alayhi salam that the ruh, the soul, is connected to him, and it will always be connected to him. And how do we know this? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed from his spirit into the soul of Adam. Go to Surah Al-Hijr, verse 29, you will see the ayah about the ruh, which is فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. This is the evidence that we have that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has breathed his traits into Adam alayhi salam. So the translation of that ayah is, and when I have proportioned Adam alayhi salam and breathed into him of my spirit, my soul, then fall down to him in prostration. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ruhi, min ruhi, from my soul to Adam alayhi salam's soul, which means that the soul is pure. The soul is pure. It's not tainted. It's not sinful. It's a pure soul. And that is the honor. That is the honor the human being has above all other creations, because the jinn do not have that and the angels do not have that. That means all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's traits are in Adam. They are all in Adam alayhi salam. So if you look at the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will see that humans have the ability to be or to have all of those traits. So for example, we can be merciful, we can be kind, we can be just, we can be forgiving, we can be harsh, we can be tough, we can be judgmental, we could be everything, but just not to the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are given a tiny portion, a tiny share of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes in our soul. So what makes our soul so special? It's special because it's so pure. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't give the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a lot of information about the soul. So regardless of who you are, regardless of whether you're an empath, a codependent, a narcissist, a psychopath, no matter who you are, your soul will always remain pure. Always remain pure. And this is because it has a special connection to Allah. Your soul, your ruh, it's a ruh in Arabic, it's the entity that's a part of the human being that always looks for God, always looks for a higher being, a higher authority. And we know this because a lot of people, when they feel down and depressed and they're searching for their purpose in life, they're searching for God. But they don't know it because their soul feels so deprived, so starved of spiritual care, that a lot of people end up looking for their purpose in life. They end up looking for God and exploring God and reading about God, because something in them is directing them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the soul. Your soul is your spiritual compass that leads you back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when the soul is in our body, it can only communicate to us through our feelings and through, through emotions and how we feel physically. So when the soul feels deprived of a connection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the other 3 parts of you, your intellect, your nafs and your physical body are not cooperating and collaborating with each other to establish that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through prayers and fasting and doing good deeds for the sake of Allah, your soul starts to become very starved. And when it becomes very starved of a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find it in depression that has no cause. Some people just feel depressed and they don't know why. There's nothing in life that makes them feel depressed, but they just feel so depressed because this is their ruh trying to communicate to them what's missing. And that's why you have so many celebrities and so many wealthy people who have everything they could possibly want, from the best looking wife or husband, the best mansion. You know, they're living the best life, but they're still depressed. They still suffer from anxiety. They still suffer from loneliness. They still suffer from a lack of purpose. And that's the soul. That is the soul crying because the other three parts of the human body are not working together to take care of it. So that is how we know every single person to ever be created will have a pure soul that's good. Because it's the only part of you that is so pure that is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of this, we don't know what happens to it. We don't know what happens to it on the Day of Judgment and in the hereafter. We know that the souls are what go back to, Jannah, but we don't know what's going to happen to the souls of the people who, get punished or go to the hellfire. We don't know what's going to happen to those souls. This is ilmuha inda Allah, ilm al-ghayb. This is information that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wasn't given. So one of the things actually that I find fascinating that I came across in the works of Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah and other scholars is that they explained that at night when you sleep, you go into a state of being unconscious. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes your soul. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul and the soul will travel. And that is why you see dreams of travels sometimes. You see dreams of you meeting other people that you haven't seen for a very long time, whether they have passed on or that they're still alive. And all souls, while they sleep, meet each other. Now, this could be in the barzakh, which is the it's almost like the waiting area for people who have passed on in life. It's the waiting area before the Day of Judgment. We call it the barzakh. And in the barzakh, it's like another spiritual realm where people either get punished for the things that they did in this life or they get rewarded. And this is all pre-Day of Judgment. So some people get punished in the barzakh, but they're purified before the Day of Judgment, depending on how severe their sins were. So it's a cleansing process. So in the barzakh, you will find that is where the tortures of the grave happen. So when someone dies, the physical body stays in the grave, and your soul and your nafs and everything, it goes to the barzakh. Now, we know in Islam that the soul itself doesn't get tortured. It doesn't get tortured because it's too precious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the most pure entity. It's the most perfect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, the soul of the human being. So it's not that gets tortured or accountable for. And how do we know this? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Muddathir, ayah 38, Kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahina. Every soul will be detained for what it has done. Now, this is a wrong translation. A lot of translators who have translated the Quran have said that it's the soul who gets who's held accountable, that is held accountable on the Day of Judgment, when it's not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us here, kullu nafsin. It's not kulli ruhin, it's kulli nafsin. It's your nafs that is held accountable on the Day of Judgment because that is your ego. Your soul that holds Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes, it's not held accountable because the mission of the soul is to always connect you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No matter who you are, no matter how bad you are, you will have a pure soul. And that's how we know that the soul, it doesn't get punished, it doesn't get tortured, and it doesn't stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. Your nafs is who you are as a person, who you choose to be, how your character is formed is based on your nafs, and we'll come on to that in a minute. So just finishing up about the soul and the dreams. So when your soul gets taken up, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some scholars have said it's because the soul is so distressed in the human body because it's not making the effort to have any connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So out of mercy for the soul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the souls at night when we sleep. And that's why we sleep. That is the spiritual reason as to why we sleep. It's like a break. It's like a break from the soul. They need to have a break from who we are as human beings because they detest us. They feel sick, they feel suffocated, they feel overwhelmed by being trapped in a human body that has no connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is constantly sinning. It's like being stuck in a house that's full of rats, or stuck in a house that's damp and moldy and it's falling apart. That is how the soul feels in the body of a constant sinner who has no relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the soul so much, He gives them a break when we sleep by taking them up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the souls up to Jannah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the souls up to Jannah, we know from from a hadith as well, that Allah will either retain some or bring them back. So some people will die in their sleep. If Allah retains the soul during the dream, then that person will pass away in their sleep. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't willed for that person to die in their sleep, then your soul will come back to you when you wake up. So we know, again, from various hadiths and scholarly works, that the dreams that you have before Fajr time, they are usually pure. They are usually messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you. Sometimes you'll find someone coming to apologize to you in a dream, someone who never could in this dunya. They'll come and apologize to you, or they'll come with a message for you. Again, like if you read Arabic, read the book Ar-Ruh by Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah. It's amazing. It talks about all of these things that happen to the soul on its journey up to Jannah. So on its journey up to Jannah, it will pass by loads of other different souls, lots of other people, and that's why you see certain people in your dreams. And sometimes if you have a nightmare, it's because you've gone to the barzakh where people are being tortured and so on. And sometimes, your soul will get glimpses of Jannah, and that's when you see, like images of Jannah in your dreams, beautiful places, like gardens, seas, all those kind of sceneries. So it depends on where your soul goes, but it's on its journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it will pass by so many different things. And we know that the dreams that you have before Fajr time, they are usually true. There's usually a message in there for you. And the dreams that come after Fajr time, these come from the shaitan. So if you have nightmares, if you see people in your dreams after Fajr, if you have just anything that's disturbing, know that that's the shaitan trying to play with your mind. Anything before Fajr, like in the last third of the night before you wake up to pray, they're the good dreams. And even if you have a nightmare, it's still a message for you. There's still something important in there for you to learn and understand. But after Fajr, that is when you get you get a lot of disturbing dreams after Fajr. If you think about when you get your horrible nightmares and disturbing dreams, they will usually be after Fajr. So if you pray and you go back to bed, you'll have those disturbing dreams. So, it's this is the most important thing that we need to know about the ruh, is that it's always pure and it's always needing you to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you get those days when you feel depressed and you don't know why, there's no real cause for it. You've got everything, you're happy. It's just, you just don't feel happy. No matter what you do, there's just something inside you that's feeling really down. Then know that you've got a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's missing. You're missing your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And usually when people find that purpose and they find that connection with Allah and that relationship with Allah, look how happy they become. Look at converts to Islam and how happy they become when they find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at people. Just look at Andrew Tate and look at other celebrities who have converted to Islam. Look how much happier they are ever since they've realized that what was missing in my life was a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the purpose of your soul. That's the soul. Now, in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making the human being more superior because of, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has breathed into Adam alayhi salam's soul from his own spirit. That's one aspect of what makes humans more superior than any other creation. The other part of the human being that makes him or her more superior to the angels and the jinn and all the other creation is the intellect. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving us this amazing intellect. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the angels to bow down to Adam alayhi salam, it was out of honor and respect that this creation is so superior, and the angels couldn't understand it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he taught him the names of everything, and then he asked, the angels to repeat them, and they couldn't repeat them because they don't have that educational, mindset. They don't know how to, process knowledge in that way. So when he asked Adam alayhi salam to repeat everything that he had taught him, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had taught him, he managed to do it. And he said to the angels, have I not told you that I know that which you do not know? And the angels felt embarrassed. They felt embarrassed. How could they challenge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that way? Because they were upset that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would create another creation that had free will. Because before the human being was created, the jinn ruled the earth. And the jinn, because they have free will as well, they corrupted the earth. They caused so much corruption and bloodshed and wars and everything. So the angels couldn't understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would create another being that has free will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught them that yes, this creation has free will, but also an incredible amount of intelligence. I've given this creation a mind that they can use. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Surah Al-Isra, verse 70, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. So this is the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the other creation that, I have given honor to the children of Adam, alayhi salam, whether they are traveling in the sea, or in the desert and dry land. And I have given them a lot of good things in this dunya. A lot of good things, like from food, from, livestock, from everything. وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ. And I have favored the human being above, everything else. Because it's got like superhuman powers, the intellect, you've got the soul, you've got your physical body. So it's, when you put all of them together and use them in the right way, the human being is a powerful creation. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed the children of Adam alayhi salam with multidimensional attributes, and they're not found in other creation. So even the beauty of form and feature, like the way the human being has been, created, the beauty of the human being. Like, when you see someone really good looking, you're dazzled by them. Like, there's something very beautiful about, the creation and the appearance of, the human being, the physical body that's been taken care of. And there's also the intelligence of the human being in the sense that, humans are able to build things and make things, manufacture things, like planes and ships and houses and road infrastructure. Sometimes you just look at the world and what's in it and you think, how did humans make all of this? How is it possible that humans have actually, been able to construct such amazing buildings and figure out how to, manufacture planes and get them to fly. And this is all amazing intelligence that other creations do not have. And then you've also got the gift of communication, speech, comprehension, understanding, explanation. It's unmatched by other living forms. So birds, for example, may communicate in symbols. They might communicate in sounds and noises to, communicate with each other. But, the human being has the ability to communicate in so many different ways, whether in writing, on speech, like typing on a computer, and just so many things. There are so many ways that a human can communicate and figure out how to just navigate through this dunya, with their intelligence. And that's what makes them so, just so amazing. Like even how to cook, like how to learn how to cook, what spices work together, what, how to cook meat, how to cook fish. All of that came from human intelligence. All of it came from human intelligence. So you find many ayat and, Quranic verses in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges our intellect. He challenges the intellect that he gave us, because if human beings have the ability to do all of this, then can you not question and reflect upon your purpose? There's a lot of those Quranic verses in that appeal to us, that are meant to appeal to our intellect. So, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 164, إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار والفلك التي تجري في البحر بما ينفع الناس وما أنزل الله من السماء من ماء فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وبث فيها من كل دابة وتصريف الرياح والسحاب المسخر بين السماء والأرض لآيات لقوم يعقلون. So this verse essentially is saying, like there are signs for those who use their intellect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed on the earth to show them that there is a God, to show them that they have a higher purpose, that there's a mission for them in this life. Allah tells them to look at like the skies and look at the earth and look at how the night merges into the day and the day merges into the night, and look how he allows the ships to float on the sea. All of these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, do you not use your brains to like reflect on what's going on around you? Do you not use your brains to ask, how is this all working? Do you not question the existence of God, who orchestrates everything that happens in our universe? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions a lot of times in the Quran, وَكَثِيرٍ مِّنْهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. You'll find that the majority of people don't use their intellect. Like, it's frustrating how the majority of people have been given such a beautiful gift of intellect, and they will use it, they will apply it in many other areas of life, but not in their spiritual understanding of it. And that is where the ruh gets neglected, you see. The ruh, the soul, is getting neglected because the intellect is not working with the soul, because the nafs is not taking care of it. So Allah says, كَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Most people will not use their minds or knowledge or intellect to understand and actually reflect on this universe, and to actually acknowledge that there is a God out there. It's mainly targeted towards the atheists and those who don't believe in God. So, because even those atheists have been given intelligence, we're all the same. We've all been created the same. All of us have been created the same. We've all got the same four entities. It's just people take different life paths because of their upbringing, because of the religion of their parents, because of who they're influenced by, and so on. And that's why it's such a waste when you're a Muslim and you've got Muslim children, you don't teach them any of this. I can understand if someone's raised in an atheist household and they miss out on this valuable information, but there is no excuse whatsoever for a Muslim couple to not raise their children with this knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us as well in Surah Al-Rum, verse 8, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَأَجَلٍ مُّسَمًّى وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِّنَ النَّاسِ بِلِقَاءِ رَبِّهِمْ لَكَافِرُونَ. Okay, the translation of this is, do they not think deeply in their own selves, with their own minds, about themselves, how Allah created them from nothing and that He will resurrect them? Allah has not created the heavens and earth and all that is between them except with truth and for an appointed term. And indeed many of mankind deny the meeting with their Lord. So again, this just emphasizes on the neglect of the intellect. The neglect, the severe neglect of this amazing entity that we have. Like the Quranic word, the Arabic word, yatafakkaru, it's like, do they not like repeatedly think about it, excessively think about, why am I here? You know? If you can't think about that, if you can't self-reflect, then you're not using your intellect. And that's why, again, many narcissists, they do not self-reflect. They do not actually sit down for 5 minutes and ask themselves, why am I like this? How can I get out of being like this? Because they don't self-reflect. Narcissistic people run away from who they are because they don't want to face the reality of who they really are and their weakness. They don't want to face any of it. So they would rather just not think at all about anything of what they've done. They don't want to think about who they are. They don't want to think about how they got to that stage in their life of being narcissistic and psychopathic. They don't want to think about it. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, now with the rise of narcissism, most people will not self-reflect. They will not self-reflect because they don't want to use that intellect. So can you imagine what a waste that is? Like the incredible things you can do with your intellect in a good way, but because of your narcissism and because you have no control over your ego and your nafs, you're unable to use it efficiently. You're unable to use it. But instead you use it in a way that harms yourself and harms others. And you'll be accountable for that on the Day of Judgment. All that will be coming to them. A lot of people say, narcissists get away with everything. How come they can move on with their lives and be happy and I'm sitting here suffering? Nah. They've got a lot to be accountable for. A lot. Because they're not using their brains and their intellect. So, us being the superior creation to the jinn and the angels, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He taught the angels that with their intellect, with the intellect of humans, they will be able to worship me in ways that you can't. And that's why da'wah through knowledge is worship. That is why treating people in kindness and teaching them, the moral way of Islam, and when you have that education, it's guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the spreading of good knowledge as worship. You see, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that the angels wouldn't understand this because they don't have it. So He had to ask the angels to see for themselves how Adam alayhi salam was able to know the names of everything after Allah had taught him just once. So it means that the human being has the ability to worship Allah through your mind, through the mind, through intellect and through knowledge. Some of the most dearest people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the knowledge seekers, especially those scholars in da'wah who spread beneficial knowledge and they apply that knowledge on themselves. It's not just people who learn about the deen and pass it on to everyone else while they live a different life, while they're hypocrites. No, it's for people who actually have a sincere love for that knowledge, and they want it to be a part of their lives. And you see it in their lifestyle, you see it in those people. Like, they apply all that knowledge to themselves before they give that knowledge to other people. And on the Day of Judgment, those people will be shaded under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne. Because the power of knowledge and the power of the mind and the power of influencing people in a good way that will change their lives for the better, that in itself is a dawah mission. That in itself is a dawah mission. And you will only be rewarded for it in this life and the next life when you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, why do you think so many people are so exasperated and frustrated at David Attenborough? Why? Because the knowledge he has and the knowledge he's given to the world has really helped people find God. It's really helped people to understand that there is a God out there to create all of these amazing creatures. فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ, on land and in the sea. Like, it's actually flabbergasting how he's not, like, even if he's not Muslim, he's an atheist. Until now, he's an atheist. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the ability and the stamina and the energy to benefit mankind with this beautiful knowledge, because this is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is knowledge about his creation that we need to know, because it will increase our iman to know it. But unfortunately, he will not get the reward in the hereafter because of the arrogance. That, despite him seeing all of this, he's still adamant on being an atheist. So someone like that, unfortunately, he's a bridge that people walk all over to find God. But he will lose that status. He will lose the status that he has in this dunya in the next. Because right now, he's been honoured he was honoured by the Queen, and he's given a huge status, celebrity status now in the world because of his work, which is incredible. But he won't have that in the hereafter, and I really do pray that he finds God before he dies, because he's helped a lot of people find faith. So that's the difference, and this is where, the ayah that I just gave you about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking people, I've created all of this, the heavens and the earth and the sea and the planets and the day and the night. Do you not use reason? Do you not use your intellect and your mind that I've given you, that I've gifted to you, to understand your purpose and that I exist and that I'm in control of everything? Do you not use reason? So no matter how educated someone is in some area in life, it doesn't mean that they use their minds in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to use it. Because if you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists and you do everything for the sake of Allah after that, then you'll get the reward for using your intellect in the right way. So if David Attenborough, for example, if he was doing all of this for the sake of Allah, can you imagine his reward for converting so many people, for making people better Christians, better Jews, better Muslims? People have converted because of him. But he's missing out on all of that reward because of his arrogance. So seeking reward and seeking knowledge and passing on knowledge that isn't done for the sake of Allah, its reward ends in this dunya when you die. It ends there. You can't carry it with you into the next life. Because there is a reward for benefiting people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. He will give someone, their due amount of reward for the good that they've done in this world, whether you're an atheist or not. You will get your reward coming to you. But it will stop here. You won't carry it with you into the next life. So, don't underestimate the intelligence that you have. Invest in it. Invest in your intelligence. Invest in your knowledge. Invest in, becoming a more powerful human being by seeking knowledge. And that's what makes the human being so special. And that's what makes the human being so superior. And this is why the shaitan hates the human race. He is so jealous that they have something so valuable. And that's why the shaitan and the satanic mission is always to take away your iman and take away your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by trying to damage this ruh. You see? So that is the main, mission of the shaitan. It's to completely take away your iman. Because he knows that if a human being cultivates and really looks after the spiritual ruh in him or her, then they're undefeatable. You can't beat that person. You can't destroy that person, because that is the most powerful part of a human being. That connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have it because Allah breathed into the human soul. So because the shaitan doesn't have that, he's jealous and he's angry and he's thinking, I will show you that the majority of your followers will not have iman, will not be loyal to you, because they will neglect the soul. The most powerful part of you will be neglected. So can you see how so many humans are not making full use of this most powerful gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us? Like, that's where our power lies. And the shaitan makes us chase our ego and look after our ego and, worship our egos. Some people worship their egos. Some people have made their egos their gods. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Furqan in ayah 43, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ أَفَأَنْتَ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِ وَكِيلًا. Have you seen, O Prophet, the one who has taken their own ego as their God? Will you then be a keeper over them? So there are some people who worship their egos, worship their desires, and anything that they want to do, they'll do it with no discipline, no accountability, no repentance, nothing. And worshipping the ego is a religion in itself. You are already following a different religion when you take the ego or you take something else as your God that you worship. So if you are neglecting everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you to do or told you not to do or told you to avoid, and you are chasing your ego, you are worshipping this ego and doing everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you not to do, then you've taken another God. You are now a mushrik. You are now somebody who has no regard for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do, and you follow your own desires. This is what it means. This is what the ayah means. There's another ayah in Surah Al-Nazi'at, ayah 39. فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. The translation of this ayah is, as for whoever exceeded the limits, like the boundaries, the moral boundaries, and preferred the life of this world, surely his home will be the fire. And as for whoever feared to stand before his Lord and restrained the desires of his self, of his ego, of his nafs, surely his home will be paradise. So, we understand again from this ayah that you've got to tame that ego, you've got to tame that nafs, because your nafs determines who you are as a person. So, for example, if your nafs tells you, or it's inclined to sin, you will be known as a sinner. You will be known as somebody who always drinks, someone who's always smoking, someone who's always committing zina, someone who's always in haram relationships. Narcissism is fueled by the ego. So if you're chasing your desires, and you allow yourself to be controlled by your desires, so you don't have that discipline, you don't have that moral and spiritual discipline for yourself. If you feel like doing something, even if it's haram, even if it's bad for your health, even if it's bad for your life and your career and your future and your marriage, you will still do it because you have no control over yourself. You've got no control over the nafs. Again, I've explained this in a previous podcast. It's like having a wild horse that you can't tame. if you're not strong enough to tame the horse, the horse will take you wherever it wants you to go. Wherever the horse will go, you follow it. But if you're strong enough to tame the horse, eventually the horse will understand, I can't get my way. I can't get my way because the owner is smart, the owner is strong, the owner knows when I'm up to my tricks. The horse might try a trick here or there. When he sees you nodding off, getting sleepy, getting drowsy, getting tired, that's when he'll try his tricks to run off with you. And then you wake up, you're like, no, just because I'm sleepy doesn't mean I'm weak. Your nafs is the same thing. Now, sometimes you might desire something, but it's halal. For example, your nafs is what craves things. So you might crave ice cream one day, or you might really crave, doing some sort of activity, or you might really crave, just something. There's something that you really crave doing. You really, really want to do it. You really want to go and do that skydiving. You really want to go scuba diving. You really want to, travel to South Africa. That is also from your nafs. And we have our intellect to help us make the right decision. Is what my nafs wants good for me? Is it good for me? Is it good for my deen? Is it going to jeopardize the other three entities involved in this relationship of this, Is it going to jeopardize the relationship between the soul and the physical body and the intellect? Am I going to destroy my physical health by doing this? No? Okay, let's ask the ruh. Is it going to destroy my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if I do this? The ruh says no. And then you go to the intellect. Am I going to look stupid and foolish if I do this? And uneducated, someone who can't think for themselves? The mind says no. You're all good. So the nafs says, khalas, I will go ahead and do it. Because there's a unanimous vote now between all three. There always has to be a unanimous vote for the health of the human body to thrive, for this human being to thrive. Now, if the nafs wants to do something else that's sinful, again, you go to the physical body. If I drink, if I get drunk, is it going to affect you? He says yes. You're going to affect the physical health of the body, yes. He goes to the ruh and he asks the soul the same question. If I go drinking, get drunk, and is it going to affect your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The soul says yes, it will. And then he goes to the intellect. Oh, intellect, if I go drinking and get drunk, is it going to affect you? The intellect is going to say yes, because you're going to make a fool out of me. I'm going to be vomiting all over the street, passing out, acting strangely, acting in a crazy way. People are going to make fun of me because of how I am when I'm drunk. Yes, you're going to affect me. So the nafs here will make a decision. Will I do it or not do it? And this is where somebody either has or doesn't have the discipline. So if you already know that you committing a sin is going to affect the other three entities that are a part of you, but you decide to go ahead with it anyway, you have no control over yourself whatsoever. No control. Because deep down it's not good for you. You know that because the nafs will always consult the other three parts of you before it does something. And that's why a lot of people sin knowing it's not good for them. Where do you think that feeling comes from of guilt and of feeling bad? It's when you're doing something that other people haven't agreed to. Other people, are gonna get destroyed because if you do it. That is what makes a person a narcissist. The narcissist is somebody that regardless of what the three entities say, he's gonna do it anyway. He's gonna go and do all those major sins. He's gonna go and abuse everybody. Or she. They're gonna do horrific things because they have no control over their nafs. They can't listen to the three entities and say, okay, you know what? Fine. You've helped me make a decision here. all of you have said it's going to affect you negatively, I'm not going to do it. That's where empathy comes from. A person who is empathic, when they are presented with an opportunity to majorly sin or to abuse people or to oppress people, because their nafs consults the others and the others say, no, don't do it, your nafs says, okay, fine. It will listen because you've got empathy. You care about the soul. You care about your physical health. You care about your intellect and how your dignity. An empathic person will care. A narcissistic person will not care. So they might all tell him it's going to affect us negatively. The narcissist, because of the lack of empathy, will be like, I don't care. I want to do what I feel like doing. I don't care if it affects you soul. I don't care if it affects you intellect. And I don't care if it affects you physical body. I'm going to go and do whatever I want to do. But does that person know they're doing wrong? Yes. Because they've consulted the three. That is where the feeling of guilt and knowing that you're wrong comes from. Every narcissist knows that when they do wrong, it's wrong. They know. They play stupid, they play dumb because they don't want to face the shame. They don't want to face the shame of having zero discipline. They don't want to face the shame of having no control over their ego. Because someone who has no control over their ego is incredibly weak. Incredibly weak. No matter how strong and tough they may come across, we know that people who have no control over their nafs are weak people. Because they don't do what's best for themselves. This is the self-sabotage in the narc. That's why they self-sabotage everything good. Everything good. Like they know that they need to be better people. They know that they need to avoid a sinful situation. They know they need to appreciate this amazing wife or husband that they've got. They know that they need to work hard at their career so that they can, have a good life. They know they have to be good to their parents. But because the nafs decides not to listen to the other three entities and do whatever it wants to do, because it feels entitled to do whatever it wants to do, it self-sabotages everything good. That's where self-sabotage comes from. This is what Islamic psychology teaches us. This is a wealth of information in Islamic psychology. And that is how people become narcissistic. The weaker you are to tame that horse, the more the horse is going to run with you. So effectively, honestly, think about it. The narcissists are the weakest people on the planet because they don't know how to tame that horse. But the empath does. The empath knows how to tame that wild, crazy horse. Who's the stronger one here? Definitely the empath. And why do you think narcissists always target empaths? Why they always want to take their strength away? Why they always want to take their iman away? Because they know that they're stronger. So I'm giving it to you from a different perspective here so you can see it clearly. This is the reason why empaths do not self-sabotage. Because they're stronger than the narc and the narc sees that. And the narc will always target empaths as victims because the narc is thinking, if I can kill the empath in that person and the strength in that person, they'll be just like me. You'll be weak. You can't tame that horse. You and me will be one. You won't be better than me. The narcissist's mission is to make everyone else narcissistic as well. By kicking out the empathy in that person. Because sometimes, you can be so destroyed from narc abuse that it makes you a very bitter, hateful person afterwards. It can. And the narcissist loves to see you like that because now you're not better than him or her. Now it's like you are me. You are exactly the same as me. Huh? You thought you were better than me? I showed you. You're on my level now. And they go looking for every empath they can find to completely destroy. Now, who do they help? Who do they have the help of? The qareen. So as we know, we have a qareen that follows us everywhere. It's the jinn devil that follows us everywhere. We have 4 angels, one on each shoulder that writes our good deeds and bad deeds, and one in front of us and one behind us. They change shifts at Fajr and Asr prayer. They protect us. And the ones on our shoulders, they write everything. And we have a qareen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigns a qareen to us so that we can, it's training. It's moral training to see if, it's like strength training. When, the more the qareen tries to tempt you into doing things, the more you show your resilience and power when you don't listen to the qareen. So the qareen is the supporter of your ego. Your qareen is the jinn devil that whispers all those satanic thoughts in your head. All of those temptations and, just punch him. When you're really angry at somebody and it's your qareen telling you to punch him. It's your qareen telling you, oh, lie, it's fine, he'll never find out. It's your qareen that tells you to commit suicide. It's your qareen that tells you the world is against you and God hates you. It's your qareen that tells you that you're depressed and you've got nothing and Allah's given everything to everybody but not you. Allah doesn't love you. It's your qareen that tells you that Allah will never forgive you no matter how much you pray, so don't bother praying. That all comes from your qareen. All those negative thoughts in your mind come from your qareen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so many ayat that we can read. We've got the adhkar al-sabah al-masa, the morning and evening, adhkar that we read to get rid of the whispers of the satanic qareen. He's one of shaitan's soldiers. So the shaitan goes for the harder challenges. But for everyone else, you get the qareen. You get the little jinn devil who's just going to egg you on to commit sins until your iman just depletes and depletes and depletes and depletes. So again, a narcissistic person who's got no discipline with their ego, can you imagine how easily influenced they are by their qareen? The qareen tells them all the time, do this. The narc is like, yep, sure. Why not? Let's live a little bit. And they'll do it. And that is why we have Surah An-Nas. Surah An-Nas, it's about that satanic whisper, to get rid of that. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَٰهِ النَّاسِ مِنْ شَرِّ الْوَسْوَاسِ الْخَنَّاسِ مِنْ شَرِّ الْوَسْوَاسِ الْخَنَّاسِ. Like, Ya Allah, protect us from the whisperings of that satanic devil that's always in our ear. الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. He will whisper into the hearts of people. The heart is that spiritual heart. The spiritual heart that is connected to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ. So you get satanic devils from the jinn, which is your qareen, وَالنَّاسِ, and satanic people. Satanic people are like bad friends. If you've got bad friends who are always up to no good, bad family members, you've got a bad partner who's constantly smoking weed and they want you to smoke weed with them, they want you to go clubbing with them. All of this is narcissism. Like shayateen al-ins, the devils in human form, are the narcissists, because they have no control over their nafs, no control over their ego. So they will do the opposite of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, because they're following satanic orders now. And satanic orders will always be the opposite of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, told us to do. It's always the opposite. If you look at the satanic message right now in the world, in modern society, what is it? Do whatever you want. Be whatever you want. You want to be a woman, be a woman. You want to be a man, be a man. You want to be tri, you want to be bi, you want to be this, you want to be that. You want to marry a donkey, go ahead and do it. It's that concept of do whatever you want to do, have no discipline, and let that horse run away with you. So satanic society right now is pushing for people to be very narcissistic. And that's why we're seeing such a huge rise in it. We're seeing such a huge rise in people being so narcissistic. It's like a disease that's just come out of nowhere. Because before there was discipline in society, but now there isn't. Now the floodgates are open and you can be and do whatever you want. That is satanic mission. That is the satanic way of life. Do what you want. Do whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever makes your nafs happy, do it. This is why we are seeing a spread of narcissism. Because that authority, that Islamic authority, that godly authority, it's not there right now in our societies. It's not there. You know, we're not living according to Sharia law. We're not living in countries, even Saudi. We are no longer living in Muslim countries that truly apply Sharia law and that discipline. And Sharia law, why is it so good for people? Because it forces you to discipline your nafs. It forces you to discipline your nafs for your own good, so you don't self-sabotage and so you don't corrupt and ruin the rest of society. A lot of people say, oh, Sharia law is so strict, Sharia law is this, Sharia law is that. All you need to do is read up on the Islamic Golden Age and you will see how Sharia law stopped wars from happening. It stopped a lot of crime. People lived safely, people lived happily, people lived in coexistence with each other and you know, people of different religions were safe with Muslims. You know, you didn't get the narcissism that you have today. This is narcissism from pre-Islamic Arabia. What we are seeing now in our societies is narcissism from pre-Islamic Arabia because they had no education on how to discipline the nafs. So the Quran came and the prophets came. When Nabi Muhammad ﷺ came to teach us how to train and control the nafs. That's why it's called jihad and nafs. Where do you think the words jihad and nafs came from? You are at constant war with your nafs. Constant war. To train it, to tame it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Shams from ayah 7. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. He swears by the nafs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the nafs. He said, and by the nafs and the one who fashioned it. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Then with the knowledge of right and wrong inspired it. So we already know that our nafs is always against us. Our nafs is constantly fighting us. Because it has the ability to do right and wrong. You either train it to do right and tame it, or you're constantly fighting it because you're constantly fighting your desires. You know, you want to commit the haram, but you're like, oh my God, this is so difficult. I'm slipping into sin. I'm slipping into this. It's a struggle to not sin. And when you're struggling to not sin, especially with the major sins, know that you are at war with your nafs. And that's why it's called jihad and nafs. Like there is the reward of martyrdom for people who are able to tame their nafs until the day they die. Because that in itself is war. It's a holy war. Because when you tame your nafs, not only do you save yourself from self-sabotaging everything good in your life, but you're also not influencing other people and corrupting and destroying the society. So that type of jihad, that type of holy war that happens within yourself is also rewarded by martyrdom if you die in that state. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that one of the hardest wars you will ever fight is the one within yourself. Because it's not easy, especially if you're in an environment where a lot of people sin all the time. And it's just normal. It's become a part of normal life. Like, for example, someone who can't get married or someone who's struggling to get married. You know, you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, and now you're struggling against zina. You're struggling against, keeping yourself pure. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on in Surah Al-Shams and He said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Successful indeed is the one who purifies their nafs. How do you purify your nafs? By acknowledging the other three entities first. If it's good for the soul and the body and the mind, then go for it. That's purification. When you check with the other three entities that if you do something, it's in the mutual benefit of them all. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And doomed is the one who corrupts it. Doomed. Because you self-sabotage. You self-sabotage. So, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us so much about this because it's important. It's important that we understand where self-sabotage comes from and what it is that we need to work on. Narcissists need to work on training, strength training. You need to learn how to, to tame that nafs, because if you can tame the nafs, you can also tame the qareen. You can tame that devil that follows you everywhere. You can start to cut off bad friends and stop being in, stop socializing with people in bad environments where sins are happening. You can start to do all of that. There's a hadith narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu where he says, قال النبي الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس الشديد من غلب الناس ولكن الشديد من غلب نفسه. So the translation is, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that the strong people are not those who defeat other people. Rather, the strong people are those who defeat their own egos, their own nafs. This is Sahih Hadith. This is like pure evidence, clear evidence that your ego is your enemy. Your ego will be your downfall because your ego is connected to your qareen. It's not connected to your soul. Your qareen can't get to your soul, but it can get to your nafs to affect your soul. And that's how a lot of people lose their iman, because the nafs is the one that, he's on the front line. He's on the front line. He's the one that makes the final decision. And that's why the nafs is accountable on the Day of Judgment. Because it's responsible for looking after the other three. And if it doesn't look after the other three, your physical body, your intellect, and your soul, then it will face that on the Day of Judgment. And we know this as well from another ayah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, verse 41, حتى إذا ما جاءوها شهد عليهم سمعهم وأبصارهم وجلودهم بما كانوا يعملون. And the translation of the Quran verse is that on the Day of Judgment, the person's hearing and their eyes and their skins will testify against them of what they used to do. It will testify against what? Your nafs. It will testify against your nafs. Your body will start talking as a separate entity on the Day of Judgment to say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this nafs made me do this. I didn't want to do it. It made me go clubbing. It made me commit zina. I told it I didn't want to do it. It's not good for me. But the nafs went ahead and did it anyway. So your own body, your own physical body, will testify against your nafs, your ego, on the Day of Judgment. Now, if your nafs did good, then your body will also testify for it. It will say, no, I used to go to the masjid. I used to, go to feed the poor. I used to go visit my parents, my sick parents. I used to do this, I used to do that. So it can testify for you as well. But if it can testify for you, it will also testify against you. Your intellect will testify against you. All those three entities will not support you on the Day of Judgment if you kept on dismissing what they needed and what was good for them. So, it's scary. It's scary to think about it. that the nafs will find itself on its own. And it will see the body speaking, saying, because it's a separate entity. The human being is not just one. We are 4 parts. A lot of people do not even know that. A lot of people don't know that. I've written about this in my book, The Muslim Narcissist. I did write about it, but I'm going into it in more detail in this podcast because I just feel that it's something that people really need to know more about, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. This will help you gain a better understanding of who you are as a human being. So, looking after your body, simultaneously taking care of all 4 entities is what will make you an amazing human being, an empathic supernova. That's what we all want to be. But you can only do that when you always have the consensus of the 3 entities before you do something. That is where humans are superior. You have the intellect. Because if you're not sure if is this good for my deen? Is it good for my soul? I'm not sure. Let's ask the intellect. And the intellect, because of the knowledge you gain in this life, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the first word in the Quran that came down was iqra. Read. Get educated. Seek knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who seek knowledge because you need it to become a good human being. When you're not sure about a decision, when you're not sure if this is going to affect your physical health or your spiritual health, they will turn to your intellect to form a better decision. Your nafs will rely on your intellect. Is it good for me if I do it? Give me some education here. Give me some knowledge about, smoking. It's going to, okay, I know now, I've read that, if tar gets into my lungs, then I can get lung cancer and so on and so forth. That comes from your knowledge and what you learn from the world. If I do this, if I take that, is it going to affect my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The intellect is so important. And that is why people who just don't read, they're not educated, I'm not saying educated that you have to go to university and get a PhD or anything like that. No, education is just, you just go out there and you learn. You have a passion for learning. Have a passion for learning. Read about the scholars of Islam. Read about the Sahaba. Read about the prophets. Read about, we're given the Quran and the Hadiths to make us intelligent, so we know how to navigate through life. Yeah, it's all great to read a book on South African animals and everything. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. This is all knowledge of the dunya that makes us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like when I watch David Attenborough documentaries, it really increases my iman. Seriously increases my iman. Because it's knowledge of the world. But is that going to help me to understand who I am as a human being? No. And that's why we're given the stories of the prophets. We're given the hadith. We're given the Quran. So that the most important thing that we need to seek knowledge about is who we are as people. How we can be good Muslims. How we can be good, just good people. Good moral people, and how to cultivate good societies and raise good families and so on and so forth. Everything comes after. Everything else comes after. How to be an engineer, how to be a doctor, how to be a lawyer, how to be a biologist, a marinist, whatever it is you want to do. You want to be an astronaut. All of that comes after. And that is why the parents, Muslim parents, have an obligation to raise their children in an Islamic way, because they don't always get this knowledge out of the home. So if children are raised in the home, and that's why it's so important for a mother to stay at home, it's important for a mother to be educated and a mother to know all of this information, because she will plant that in her children when they're growing up. Everything about the nafs, the intellect, the ruh, the physical body, all of these things, they should be planted in children. This is basic information, guys. Basic Islamic information that every child has to know, so that they can navigate through life and understand where their depression comes from, where their satanic whispering come from. This is what children get. So A lot of Muslim families neglect their children. They neglect their children when they fail to instill this education in them. They fail miserably. And that's how a lot of children grow up without really knowing who they are. They have identity crises because they don't know who they are and they don't know how to deal with their emotions, and they become emotionally unavailable and traumatized all the time and so on. So a child's first right in Islam is for you to choose the right father and the right mother who will teach them all of this. And then as they grow up, as they go to college and university, they'll start to learn about other things. They'll start to learn about architecture and construction and everything else. If they want to be a vet, if they want to study animals, if they want to, they learn about that later. But the Islamic upbringing, this core Islamic information that they need to know to survive on this planet, you need to be teaching them that in the home. And that is why a mother being at home is so important in Islam. A mother having a career and, having all of that luxury lifestyle, all of that is not important in Islam. None of it's important in Islam. It all goes down the toilet when your children do not grow up with basic Islamic information. It's good to teach them how to pray. A lot of people do. Teach them how to pray, teach them how to fast. But do they understand the nafs? Do they understand, the core of who they are? Do they understand how to actually establish a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they understand the nafs? I'm telling you, children, I have taught children this from a young age and they found it fascinating. I'm talking about children at the age of 5 and 6. You simplify it for them and they're fascinated by it. They find it so interesting. And then it will always stick in their minds when they grow older. Because when they understand the nafs, they become more excited to pray. Salah has more of a meaning for them now. Fasting has more of a meaning. Because now they feel strong that they can control their nafs. Children feel like superheroes when you teach them things like this. How to battle your nafs, how to, stop the shaitan from, tempting you to do this or do that. You turn children into superheroes from a young age by doing that. That's just a parenting tip. So, Ibn Kathir says, the believers are people who have been prevented through the Quran from indulging in the pleasures of this world. It comes between them and what might destroy them. So the knowledge of the Quran comes between you and your ego. Because if you don't have knowledge of the Quran and a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this world will destroy you. The pleasures of this world will destroy you. Okay? He goes on to say, the believer is like a prisoner in this world who tries to free himself from its shackles and chains, placing his trust in nothing in it until the day he meets his Creator. He knows full well that he is accountable for everything that he hears, sees, and says, and for everything that he does with his body. So essentially who you are is the nafs. It's your nafs. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has equipped you with helpers to help you navigate this dunya. And the helpers, again, they're your 3 entities. He's given you a soul to help you. He's given you a physical body to help you. And he's given you the intellect to help you. Now, just moving on quickly to the physical body, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us physical bodies so that we can navigate and survive in this world. We are spiritual beings. We have, when we die, we leave our physical body behind in the physical world. But we need the physical body in order to understand how our soul feels. Okay, so when for example, when someone gets depressed and they start to cry, that's our soul communicating to us through our body that something's wrong. If we start to get sick, start to get ill, it means that one of the entities are suffering. One of them is suffering. So our physical bodies are actually a way for them to communicate with us because they're spiritual. They're non-tangible. We can't see them. We can't see the ruh. We can't see the nafs. So, the consequences of bad actions appear on our body. And the result of good decisions also appear on the body. We look better, we feel better, we look happy, we get healthier, we start to, cure ourselves of an illness. It appears when we get better on our physical body. Now, if there's something wrong, we will deteriorate. So it's like a measure. The physical body is a measure for us as to know what it is the soul is trying to communicate to us. Too many people emphasize way too much energy and importance on the physical body. They take care of their physical body far too much, and they neglect the soul, they neglect their intellect. So you might find them being very good looking, but they're airheads, they've got nothing in that brain. Nothing in that brain, or they don't pray, they don't have a connection with Allah, you find a lot of non-Muslims like that. Very good looking, but their brains, they don't have 2 brain cells to rub together at all. That's when you can assess in somebody what part that they're missing, or that they're seriously neglecting, what entity they are seriously letting down. Some people really focus on the intellect, really like they are geniuses and professors, but they have no deen. And their physical health is deteriorating as well, because they're so obsessed with learning and so obsessed with, being a genius, and all their time is spent reading and working. So the physical body is like, hey, I need help. I need to be taken care of here. Hello. And there's no deen, there's no prayers, there's no Allah in that person's life. So when you focus on the soul, everything else comes together. It's the only time in your human body, as a human creation, where everything else comes together. Because if you look after your soul, you will feel good. You will feel good. That's a true believer. A true believer is someone who looks after their soul, and looks after their nafs, and looks after their physical body, and feeds their intellect. Feeds their intellect with knowledge. It has to start with the soul. If your priority is the soul, everything else will work out. If your priority is your intellect, not everything will work out. Because neglecting the soul is the worst thing you can do to yourself as a human being. Your priority has to be to attend to the soul. Every time. If you want to be happy. If you want to live as a successful human being who has a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So focusing too much on one entity will always cause the others to suffer, because they don't have time. You're not giving them enough time in the day to acknowledge that they also have needs. So, our physical bodies, again, they're attached to we know again from Islam that the physical body is more attached to the nafs. It's more attached to the nafs in the sense that because we feel pleasure through physical contact. And that is why, it's very, how can I say it? So the physical body is connected to the physical world, and the physical world is connected to physical pleasure. So things like food, just eating really good food, sexual contact with people, just whatever it is that makes your body feel really good, you will find that it's attached to the dunya, because the nafs is attached to this dunya. The nafs is attached to the pleasures of this dunya. Again, it's the ego. It chases the ego. What makes me feel good? What makes me look good? So you'll find that the physical body is the first to get dragged down with the nafs. Because of that, physical pleasure. When you prioritize the nafs. Now, when you prioritize the soul, your physical body will be used to do good. So your physical body is, it's used to pray. It's used to fast. It's used to, show love to your family, be affectionate with your children, and have, halal sexual intimacy with your spouse. it's used in a good way. But it depends on what you prioritize. Are you prioritizing your ego? If so, you will drag your body down with you. And if you prioritize your soul, then your physical body will, because it's needed. It's needed to prostrate. It's needed to do all of those, worship rituals. You see? So everything can be used for the greater good. It's the same with knowledge, same with intellect. If you prioritize your nafs, then you will use your intellect in a bad way. It will be bad information. Like, for example, how do I deceive people? How do I manipulate people? Again, this comes from knowledge and playing with people's psyche. How can I rob a bank, for example? That there is knowledge out there that can be used in a negative way, and there's knowledge that can be used in a good way. But it just depends on what you've prioritized. Are you prioritizing your nafs, or are you prioritizing your soul? And that is how you can distinguish between good and bad people. نحن شهداء الله على الأرض. We are the witnesses. We are Allah's witnesses on this earth. So if people come across as being bad, we know that they've prioritized their nafs, and if people come across as being good, we know they've prioritized their soul. People who prioritize the soul are generally much happier people, and they're peaceful people. So I'll end it here. I hope that has been interesting and beneficial for you. Please teach this information to your children. Honestly, it really does make a difference to them. It really, really does. And I'm working on a children's book at the moment, to help parents teach their children about these kinds of things, inshallah. So hopefully that will make it easier. But until then, until that book comes out, do make the effort to spend time with your children and teach them this. This is foundational knowledge. And as always, please like the video. When these videos are liked, they come up more easily and more often in search results, for people who need this kind of information. So please do like it, do share it with people, who will benefit, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims. This is information for everybody. Do subscribe to the channel. I do drop a new podcast every Friday. And as always, if you have any questions or comments on this video, if you feel like I've missed something, then feel free to drop it below in the comments box, and I'm happy to respond to you all and and explain anything that needs further explanation. So I hope you've enjoyed, inshallah, today's podcast, and inshallah until next week, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.